Missed by 8 Inches by Lionel D'Souza is a saga of two friends from a remote Indian town, whose journey leads them to manage U.S. Army facilities in a war zone. The core of the narrative is the tragic demise of one friend and the wrongful accusation of the other for leading him to his death. More than a story of loss and injustice, the book is a testament to the unyielding strength of their friendship, detailing their solidarity, shared laughter, and mutual support amid danger. It is a tribute to the unsung civilian contractors who work defenseless in war zones, sacrificing their lives, and whose stories of courage and sacrifice are often untold. Readers will journey with the two friends, witnessing the strength of their bond and the weight of their sacrifices. Please watch the previous chapters to help better understand Chapter 9. The narrator's journey begins in Saudi Arabia, Chapter 1, where a cricket match introduces his Indian colleagues and establishes the complex, loyalty-testing friendship with Andrew, a bond immediately defined by broken trust shown first in a school prank, Chapter 2, and later when Andrew betrays the narrator despite being helped to secure a job, Chapter 4. The narrator's dramatic entry into the country, Chapter 3, involves a chaotic customs check, eventually resolved by unexpected kindness, and his personal loyalty is tested further during a tense encounter with a Saudi Mutawa priest, which surprisingly culminates in an act of cross-cultural hospitality, Chapter 5. The narrative then pivots dramatically as the narrator accepts a job supporting the Australian Defence Force in Kuwait, shifting his life toward a war zone, Chapter 6, where he adjusts to routine, manages facilities, and becomes a trusted leader forming bonds with soldiers and contractors alike, Chapter 7. Ultimately leading to a promotion and a new assignment managing facilities for the U.S. Army and UN peacekeeping forces in Afghanistan, introducing him to the brutal realities of war, including body recovery missions, Chapter 8. We are now moving to Chapter 9, titled Surge and Entry from Missed by 8 Inches, authored by Lionel D'Souza. Since mid-2002, Andrew has been working in Saudi Arabia, where the benefits for Afghanistan were more appealing than those in Kuwait, including well-organized weeks off, alternating between 2 weeks off and 3 weeks of shifts. I was in regular contact with Andrew, urging him to join me in Afghanistan so we could work together. I found myself calling Saudi more frequently than calling home, trying to persuade Andrew to make the decision. However, the main obstacle preventing him from joining me was his parents' reluctance to risk their son going to a war zone. On the ground, I frequently visited both Kandahar and Kabul, where I was a key figure on site, maintaining strong relationships with the soldiers and other agencies, which kept me in high regard within the organization. Whenever there was a need, my walkie-talkie would buzz, and I would provide a solution. Both sites relied heavily on primary power from generators, and there was immense pressure on the facilities team to ensure 100% uptime of power and services. As the number of troops and army contractors grew, so did the demands on our team. After Andrew's persistent efforts, his parents finally gave their blessing for him to join me in Afghanistan. Upon hearing this news, I was filled with happiness and immediately set out to arrange his visa. I promptly contacted Neil, and as promised, Neil expedited the process by sending out emails to secure a Dubai residence visa for Andrew, similar to mine. I also arranged for my cousins to accommodate Andrew with me. We were splitting the rent equally for the apartment, and they were content with the arrangement, especially since we were away for 3 weeks each month yet continued to contribute to the rent. Andrew resigned from his job in Saudi Arabia and traveled to India, with his joining date and visa issuance confirmed for August 4, 2002. Subsequently, Andrew flew from India to Dubai, where my cousins welcomed him at the airport. They spent a couple of nights together before they escorted him to the Air Force Base in Abu Dhabi. On the evening of the 3rd, at the end of my first week, which was quite demanding, I was also filled with anticipation for Andrew's arrival. I planned for Andrew to be my right-hand man and had prepared thoroughly to train him. I had arranged his bed next to mine and made sure all his necessities were in place for when he got here. Suddenly, My walkie-talkie crackled to life with an urgent message. Surge ordered, surge ordered. Expected incoming 4,500. Arrival time 0500 HRS, 9 hours from the message time. Ground preparedness by 0350 HRS. Control tower, prepare for arrival. The message indicated that an emergency surge was ordered with 4,500 troops expected to arrive at the base in the next 9 hours, with the arrival starting from 0500 hours. The facility's complete preparedness was required, which included setting up barracks, bedding, arranging food and drinking water, and ensuring basic ground-level etiquettes. Additionally, coordination with the local airport and control tower for air traffic clearance for takeoffs and landings was necessary. This was more of paperwork and had plenty of approvals to be taken in place both from the resident government and the local air traffic control. We had vacant barracks that could accommodate up to 2,000 individuals. I delegated responsibilities among the teams, each with a specific timeline. For the remaining 2,500 troops, we had to find space within the occupied barracks, and I dispatched a team to identify any unoccupied beds. I had a dependable Hawaiian air traffic control chief named Koa, who assured me over the radio not to worry about the control tower operations. He promised to take full responsibility for the tower and handle all necessary approvals. This allowed me to focus on other critical tasks, which included managing food supplies, preparing emergency kits, ensuring there was enough backup fuel, checking rations, and ordering various types of stocks. As time progressed, the night unfolded without a moment of rest. At 0450 HRS, the 1st Air Force plane touched down with 400 troops. I had organized a desk with our executives ready for barack allocation and registration at the base. Although the registration process was straightforward, requiring only the collection of their tag numbers, commonly referred to as dog tags, and base location, it was a bit challenging task as the troops hailed from various countries they were stationed. By 0600 HRS, the flight bound for Abu Dhabi Kandahar had landed, and despite the busy schedule, I was at the hangar to welcome Andrew. Andrew appeared to have arrived for a leisurely outing, dressed in blue jeans and a casual white t-shirt. We embraced each other, and in a light-hearted exchange, I inquired about his flight experience. He sarcastically remarked that it was comfortable and the seats were fully reclinable. His first impression was Saudi was far better, which concerned me since I had already briefed him on the base's nuances and work culture. I wondered if Andrew would adapt to this new environment. I informed him about the ongoing surge and the hectic nature of our operations. Next, I introduced Andrew to Neil, who had interactions with Andrew during our matches in the border of Saudi and Kuwait. Neil simply advised him to work closely with me and to collaborate as a team. I requested an executive to accompany him to the barracks, advising him to freshen up before meeting me at the cafeteria. With Andrew on his way, I returned to my duties. The surge was initiated to counter insurgencies in Afghanistan. By 0900 HRS, approximately 4,944 troops had arrived, and the hangar was at full capacity with no space for additional flights. The troops, hailing from various agencies, were assembling and receiving instructions for the surge. Subsequently, the troops began to depart from the base. Unlike typical exercises where movement outside the base is restricted, this occasion was different as it involved planned attacks. As the troops commenced their departure, I coordinated with 5 teams to ready themselves with body bags and recovery gear for the retrieval of fallen soldiers. It was crucial to be thoroughly prepared, considering all possible scenarios. I stationed myself at the exit gate to watch for any sudden requirements as the troops went out. I recognized some familiar faces from Kuwait and wished them well as they embarked on their mission. They were pleased to see me. Among them was Kevin from the Marine Corps, an individual with whom I had shared considerable time in Kuwait. Our interactions were not always work-related. Often, We would enjoy a game of cricket or a poker game together during non-working hours. Kevin led the Marine Corps Division, routinely entrusted with covert and high-profile operations. He had the privilege of personally selecting his team and only collaborated with them. His unit, composed of 9 members including himself, would fully camouflage during missions, using dark ink to cover their faces and wearing specialized body armor distinct from that of regular troops. His team would not carry any identification marks, which was a rule Kevin followed in case of loss during action. As Kevin departed, he remarked, "Let's catch up once back," to which I replied, "Sure, a game of cricket is overdue." He smiled, leading his company of 9 troops, distributed across 2 Hummers. Andrew emerged from the barracks in his coverall, adhering to the uniform code. He appeared leaner, having lost some weight. We met and headed to the cafeteria for brunch since breakfast was missed. It was surprising when Andrew voiced his concerns. There are so many beds in the barracks and there is no privacy. I firmly reminded him that I had been transparent about the base's conditions and urged him to refrain from further complaints. Andrew received my comments somewhat skeptically. To acquaint him with the base, I arranged for an executive to give him a tour and clarify his duties. Additionally, I coordinated with the health and safety team to brief him on safety protocols and complete necessary formalities. I apologized for not being able to spend more time with him due to the ongoing surge in activities. The base gradually emptied as the troops continued to depart, and the distant sound of gunfire was audible. At that juncture, 7 fighter jets requested landing clearance. The control tower promptly authorized their descent, and they landed in succession, their engines roaring loudly. The operations were well coordinated on our side, and Neil approached me mid-base en route to the hangar, inquiring if everything was under control. I affirmed with a nod and continued on my way. The newly arrived jets required prompt refueling. Each jet, once refueled, wasted no time in taking off, while the control tower maintained close coordination with the pilots and local airports. As noon approached, Andrew finished his orientation drive and returned. I seized the opportunity to take a break and discuss with Andrew the job's demands and my expectations of him. I detailed how I envisioned him as my deputy, potentially advancing to my current position in the future. Andrew acknowledged this, yet he seemed unconvinced, comparing the base unfavorably to the cleaner Saudi camp, with its pervasive sand, mud, dust, and the multitude of uniformed personnel. The stark reality of the base was dawning on Andrew, bringing with it an awareness of the job's gravity. I guided Andrew through the operational procedures, demonstrating the logbooks, checklists, and the use of the walkie-talkie. I also briefed him on the difficult task of body collection and provided a comprehensive overview of the base and its functions as we traversed the premises. Although we hadn't yet received any calls for body collection, our teams were prepared and on standby. End of Chapter 9. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more updates on the next chapters. Thank you for listening and subscribing.